So this is the directorial debut from Dev Patel. Of course, burst on the scene in Slumdog Millionaire, and also has done big movies like Lion and The Green Knight, which we love on this show. Um, this is his first kind of action. It's his first movie as a director, his first big action film, and he kind of made a movie for himself. He wanted to be cast in these action roles. He knows karate. He's like a black belt in taekwondo's, all this stuff, and he just wasn't getting these roles. So he said, "I'm just going to make my own movie and cast myself." And so that's where this movie came from. Was originally supposed to come out on Netflix. Netflix didn't really dig the vibe of the movie. Honestly, I heard him say in an interview they wanted something that was just tons of action all the time, and this isn't really that kind of movie. So Jordan Peele eventually saw it, loved it, and kind of helped with the distribution of it. So Dev Patel stars as the Kid, an unnamed protagonist who is a fighter by night to survive. He's not very good. He loses a lot. He's kind of the fall guy in these underground fighting rings. He is on a mission of revenge against the city's elite. He is trying to work his way up to kind of the bad guys of the city that he feels are responsible for personal tragedies of his. It kind of goes well. It kind of doesn't. He has to, go on the hero's journey, discover a lot about himself, and also just become a better fighter because he's not very good at the beginning. And he eventually goes on this big rampage. Lots of violence, lots of culture, lots of style in this, and lots to talk about. So, Zach, what do you think?
So Monkey Man is unique because it's Dev Patel's first feature. It's got some cool talent behind it in from Jordan Peele and Universal. It's got a good story, right? Like it was just going to go straight to streaming, but now it's going to theaters. We should get out and support it. This is exciting. And I think a lot of that like romanticizes what the movie might actually be. Like my expectations going in were I think maybe a little stouter than they should have been. And I realized pretty quickly that, oh, hey, remember this is Dev Patel's first movie, right? Like give it a minute, kind of settle into it. And I think after a while, I did find myself settling into what Monkey Man is doing, but it's different. It's a unique plot. It's relatively unpredictable. I didn't really know where it was going, which is usually a good thing in a movie for me because we watch a lot of them. So any that surprises me is good. It's unique action. It's stylized, but it's also got, a couple of hangups. And I think that's okay, right? Like, I think there's a lot of growth for him where he's going to go next. I think he's going to make another feature. Jordan Peele's probably going to help him do it. And I'll probably go see that in theaters. Until then, we got to talk about what's here. We got to talk about Monkey Man. Where do you want to get started?
Well, let's start with our kind of plot a little bit. So this movie has been marketed very differently, which is also a problem with Civil War, which we'll get into. The trailer makes it look like a John Wick esque, like nonstop action film, which is kind of what Netflix wanted, and it's not that at all. There is not a big action sequence for like the first hour. It's all build up, it's all character, and this isn't a flaw. It's just a different kind of movie. It's very much immersed in Indian culture. We're in a fictional Indian city, and we have these kind of powerful elite. There's the police chief. There's this political figure. There's this kind of guru figure that's also in control, and these are kind of framed as the bad people oppressing uh, everyone else, and so we spend the first hour of the kid just kind of working his way up. He gets a job at a high end restaurant, washing dishes. Eventually, kind of works his way up that system a little. He's trying to get closer and closer to these people, but it's like a slow build. You get flashbacks to his family tragedies and other things that motivate him. Him working into this, like how corrupt, like these people are involved in drugs and human trafficking and things like this. But it's a real slow build, and then we do get this really big action sequence in the middle of the film and also at the end. But it's just very different from the kind of movie that was advertised.
Yeah, you make a good point. Or in comparison to Civil War, both of these movies are marketed in a way that's a little disingenuous to what's there, and that's fine. Like when you're making a trailer, you want to present something that people are going to want to go see, and the trailer made me want to go see Monkey Man, so mission accomplished. But it's a bit more intimate than what's shown here. Yeah, you're right. Like it makes it look like it's John Wick 5, and it's like it's not John Wick 5. It's a bit more thoughtful than that, and in the best way. Like I think the culture that's rooted at the center of Monkey Man is like really really good stuff. A lot of really powerful imagery, these fantastic paintings and artwork that's kind of like shown in these flashes of memory as we're like coming to understand this like cultural idea of this like white monkey figure that he kind of possesses. And then like that's a great transition into these like boxing underground fighting ring sequences where you got dudes just swinging on each other, right? Big bold lighting, like big shadows, fast action, like really great stuff. And then as we transition into like higher society kind of segments, these like really nice restaurants and really upscale hotels, and like you get these really interesting flashes of like money and fame and like these characters he starts to interact with. I think all of that is like a really great climb up. Like that's all a lot of fun. That's a really great journey. But I think the pacing is a little rough for that. Like there's definitely some moments in that first hour where you're like, where are we headed? Again, it's unpredictable. I didn't know where it was going because it's a bit non-traditional in the best way, I think. But it also leads you to kind of linger on some of the film's more striking visuals, namely the tight framing, which we got to talk about. Dev Patel's framing is so tight on this movie. He films everything close up. Not everything, but like a lot of stuff. And watching back in the trailers, like I can see it, but they're pretty good about picking an even mix of like medium and wide shots. And meanwhile, when you're actually watching a lot of the action in the film, the camera's just real close on stuff, and you lose like a bit of establishing like shot and setting, like with just really fast, tight action on stuff. I'm reminded of like after when Bo Burnham did Eighth Grade, his first movie. He said in an interview after that he so didn't know what he was doing that they shot the whole movie in 8K and they just like cropped in for a lot of it. And I don't think they did that here. I think it's the opposite. I think he had a lot of confidence. And I think it was like, hey, I love the way this looks. I like the way this obscures this person. Like, I think that gives it, along with like striking lighting and big visuals, like a really good feel. But it's messy too. And I think we're going to go one of two ways, depending on how you watch this movie.
Yeah, I think another kind of flaw is some of our supporting characters aren't fleshed out very well. There's almost too many antagonists. Like I said, there's this politician, there's this corrupt cop, there's guru figure. It's almost too many people. We meet a couple of friends. He meets someone else, person named Alfonso in the kitchen, who's also kind of involved in vice, and they eventually become friends. We don't get whole lot about him. He meets a woman who's in the circle of people that are being trafficked, but she's kind of cynical, and she's just like, hey, if you can't handle what happens here, you can't, you don't need to be working here. But we see her like twice in the whole film, and she kind of has a character turn, but we just don't ever see her kind of in between. So some of it needed like a few more drafts in the writing. It tightened it up a little bit. Probably cut a bit of time.
It is a really cynical feature, and in that way, like it's uniquely funny in moments when I really didn't expect. For example, like there's a large portion of this like small group of kind of mercenaries that ends up getting tied in with Patel's character towards the end of the film, and many of them are men dressed as women, all played straight. But like uniquely funny when they run into a room full of like dudes who look like they'd be in a John Wick movie, and they're like, who the hell are these people? And then they get handed to them. Or a brutal scene of Dev Patel like stabbing a guy to death in an elevator set to like really loud, goofy, nostalgic music, with a quality comedy cut out of it when the music just cuts off hard. Like it's a very bloody film, and it's very showy and flashy about that. And like, I like that. I like that it's brash and loud in that way. Like, I think that's important. Like, you want it to be visually distinct. You want it to be bold in the way an action movie should. And like, I think that's something with this movie like checks two boxes. Like, it's part of the reason the trailer looks so good. Like big bright red visuals, right? Like big striking images. Like that's somewhere where I think he really exceeds here. But like expecting one person to put together all these parts of a project, writing, directing, production, starring, like it's a lot, right? Like I don't expect all of those parts to go perfectly. So I think like where these holes come up is simply just of like, a lot of responsibility on Dev Patel trying to pull it all together.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on. I wanted to kind of get into the action. We do get, it's not like John Wick. It's definitely, because our protagonist isn't that as good. He takes quite a beating through the course of the movie, but he eventually is coming out on top. But it's a different kind of action. It's not as clean as something like John Wick. And it's funny because John Wick is even referenced within the film at one point. But the action is just a little bit more brutal than that. Like I said, lots of blood, lots of pretty extreme violence. It goes on too long sometimes. Sometimes the fight sequences are just kind of, they feel never ending,
Yeah.
and it's just like, let's move on to the next action piece
Well,
or the next scene or something.
I think those are the things that really like had Peele leaning in, right? Like, because that's the story that Jordan Peele got to see a copy of this movie and was like, hey, there's something really special going on here. And I think the stuff that worked for him is going to be, yeah, like your big oneers in the action, like the handheld, you know, like how bold some of it looks, followed by like a strong injection of like culture in the narrative that I don't think a lot of people get here in the States often, which is good and important. I think like those are the things that make the movie shine, even though they are uniquely also its kind of its messiest bits. But I think that's okay. Like, yeah, I think that's a good place to get started. But I think, I don't know, people have, at least for me, yeah, I think I went in with my expectations a little higher than they should have been, and that was a reset of me for me, like halfway through the movie. Like, hey, I got to come down from this high horse where I'm thinking this is going to be like one of these quotes. The trailer's literally like the best action film in a decade plus. Like, hold on a second, all right? Like, John Wick 4 came out last year. I got to stop saying John
Yeah,
Wick.
that's
Anyway, yeah, I think Monkey Man is really redeemable. I do like it a lot.
yeah. I think it's a great first film. I'd like to see a more refined Dev Patel. The narrative needs more refinement. Our characters need more development. But the man knows what to do with the camera. Like the action is spot on. Like that part is good, and it's very, like I said, it's steeped in Indian culture. It opens with this like legend of the monkey man who wanted to eat the sun, and then is cast down as a little bit like Sisyphus situation, and we have that kind of referred to or referenced all throughout the movie, and it's very artistic in a lot of places as well. So I think it's a great first outing.
Ready for recommendations?
I am.
Andy, would you recommend Monkey Man?
I would recommend it for fans of action, and if you're a Dev Patel fan and you're looking to see what he's doing, you just need to know going in, it's a much slower, more meditative film than it has been advertised. There are some big action sequences in the middle of the movie and at the end, but there's a whole lot of slow bits in the middle, maybe a little bit too slow. Could probably cut maybe 10 minutes off of it, tighten it up a little bit, but overall recommend.
Yeah, same. I'd say you should go see it in theaters if you can get a chance. Like I said, the action I think is big enough and bold enough that it's worth checking out. Plus, you know, important cinema to support. That being said, yeah, you can keep it on a high horse, but not too high. Like don't keep those expectations all the way up there. Nobody wants to come out of a movie disappointed. Monkey Man is something special, though. I'm excited to see what Patel does next. Like I said, I enjoyed it. Would see again. We got to talk about some things that are coming out soon. So some upcoming features that are worth talking about this summer. And like I said at the top, we got some weird ones on the show this week. Some unique ones that I'm going to struggle to summarize, but we're going to do our best in a segment that we kindly call.
Sorry, it's time. I'm pulling up tabs. It's
You
time for the
got it.
trailer park.